AEW thoughts and analysis. I've been catching up. This is your buddy Mike Messier with your AEW thoughts and analysis. Let's start with this Brock Anderson tag team debut and also his interview promo in the ring with Arn and Cody. Now, look, I had to watch this out of respect to Arn Anderson. Out of respect to Arn Anderson, I had to watch this stuff. A lot of people were giving Brock grief about his choice of outfit. Wear like a polo shirt tucked in, a belt, like kind of casual flip-flops. Looks like he was fresh from like the polo club. But he doesn't quite look like he would be a member of the polo club. Like he looks like he would be working there. So he also no, and I'm gonna have a little fun with Brock Anderson a little bit, but you know, I'll get to the serious analysis of his wrestling abilities. He does look, you know, I don't know what to say. I mean, he kind of watching this guy, it's kind of like he did he know that he was going to be on television? You know, I guess would be my first question. But let's just forward to his match. Him and Cody in a tag team match against QT Marshall and that other guy. And there's so many wrestlers, there's so many factions. It's really hard to know what's what. But the QT guy, I want to give a little credit to first because he looks like he's been lifting a lot of weight. And my buddy Joe Cronin, the podcaster, says that, believe it or not, QT Marshall reminds him of The Rock. And it sounds a little silly, but if you look at the mannerisms in the ring and the body physique and the way that QT Marshall moves about the ring, not that he has the same charisma as The Rock, but it's very similar. Like the way that he moves is oddly similar to The Rock. So anyway, getting to this match, I mean, when fucking Brock Anderson comes out, I mean, the color of, was it like kind of like a pink teal or a baby blue or like an Easter color of some kind, just some odd color that he's wearing. And it just, I'll be honest, my first thought upon, and I, you know, book by its cover, but looking at the guy, it's like, he looks like a jobber at TBS, you know, back in the 80s. Like he looks like, and that's how his father started, you know, no offense to Arn, but Arn kind of always looked legit. And this kid, I don't know. He looks, his hairline is just, his face, he really looks like a 45-year-old guy. Apparently he's 23. So, now look, let's just, the elephant in the fucking room here, right? He looks like crap. I mean, he looks, it was giving me thoughts of Mike Von Erich, you know, like a rookie Mike Von Erich, God rest his soul, but just a guy, like, are we sure we want this guy on TV representing our company? Now, when he starts to wrestle, and I'm happy to say this, Brock Anderson was actually quite good. So, I mean, he had good moves, but of course he's got guys that are flipping and flopping for him. So, I mean, we've learned this lesson, haven't we? With the Pat McAfees and the Bugs Bunnies at WrestleMania. We've learned this lesson that pretty much anybody could have one good match. It's when you're tested year in and year out. Can you do this for a living professionally? The jury's still out. I mean, I think that, you know, but it feels a little Eric Watts-ish, ironically enough, Arn. It just seems like a lot of nepotism, a lot of favoritism. They try to get a viewership spike with this whole, you know, this is the son of Arn routine. And okay, I watched, but I was watching, I'm like, man, this outfit is horrible. But then I started thinking, maybe that's his gimmick. Like, maybe his gimmick is like the horrible outfit and looking like, you know, Mike Graham, and just, you know, like maybe this is his deal. Like, he's the bratty son of the wrestler who everyone loves, Arn. And maybe he can use that to a heel turn eventually and turn on Cody and make Arn choose between Cody and Brock Anderson. Just a fucking free idea, TK, Tony Khan. Why don't you give me a job to run your goddamn company? What else? Britt Baker and this Nyla Rose thing. I mean, somewhere on the internet, I probably pitched my whole deal where I was, Britt Baker should refuse. I was pitching this a year ago, that Britt Baker should be the women's champion. She refuses to contender Nyla Rose because she has an unfair advantage. And, basically saying without saying because she's transgender. And then Nyla Rose is demanding a title match, and the fans are demanding a title match for Nyla Rose, but Britt Baker just never wants to wrestle her and is always finding an excuse. And then she finally just cops says, look, I can't wrestle this woman. She wasn't even born a woman. And then it's like, oh my God, OMG. And then you have this whole social media witch hunt, and then they put these women on The View, and you have a whole storyline based on, can a transgender woman wrestler challenge a women's champion legally? And you make a big deal about it, and you try to get some press. But of course, this is the way that I think in an advanced way, trying to make this thing happen, trying to make it interesting for people, instead of just good old wrestling. Of course, AEW oddly buries the fact that Nyla Rose is transgender instead of trying to make it a topic that people can talk about. And let's have a conversation like adults. No, let's not put our head in the fucking sand about current events and issues. Do you mind? I'm talking. So anyway, what else? So now they're trying to reverse booking, and Cornette talked about this, but reverse booking. They've done the Stadium Stampede. They've done the other one, the Blood and Guts between the Pinnacle and Jericho's group, the Inner Circle. But now we have to break this up into singles feuds and a tag team feud. Like now we have to say, okay, we had our big team matches. We're 1-1. Now we have to have a summer of breaking this feud up into sub feuds. It's very reverse psychology, and maybe that'll work. Or maybe today's fan doesn't care or understand the difference. But instead of having like all these, Nikita Koloff and Lex Luger and the Road Warriors and Tully and Arn, and, like in War Games, they all had to go to War Games. We couldn't contain all these little feuds, or not little, but singular feuds. We got to put them in War Games. This has been reverse. We've had these two big specialty 5-on-5s. Now we have to split them up. So I watched this MMA thing. I was a little distracted, to be honest, but it was decent that Jack Hagar gets a victory over Wardlow. So they're 1-1. It was an interesting way of doing a cage match. There's a cat over there. But because they would kind of each have a strike or a big move or a throw, and then they would kind of smirk at each other. And it looked like at the end they were going to do a fist bump, but, spears got involved, and then blah, blah, blah. And, some people didn't like the way that MJF put that armbar on Jericho, thought it looked phony and horse shitty. I don't know. You tell me. What else is going on in the wonderful world? So they're doing these promos for the tag team guys, the Revival, FTR, whatever you want to call it, Fear the Revival, with Tully against Santana Ortiz. One of those guys, it might have been Santana, said something really stupid in his promo. He said basically to the effect of, we just sat back and let all the other tag teams fight for the tag team titles. Just let all the other guys fight for the titles. Wait a minute. So you're saying that your plan or your approach to wrestling was to not compete for the championships? So you're just demeaning the championships. So, okay, I guess you can say that, although that kind of defeats the whole point. Like we let the other teams play for the Super Bowl. We just sat back. What? So, I mean, you have idiocracy, stupidity, ignorance, dumb things these wrestlers say. And I'll point it out. Whether it's AEW or WWE or whoever the fuck, I will point it out. So there you go. Speaking of which, it seems like another lifetime ago, but I do want to say thanks to JB Cool, the Pope. I did do commentary. JB Cool and the Pope. Reba was in a women's title match. Rebel, not Reba, I should say. Brian Pillman Jr. defended his championship. The Pope was in action, and JTG looking quite good. all at the wrestling show last night. It was very fun. Just good stuff. Future Elevation Wrestling. Future Evolution Wrestling. I'm having a mental collapse. I'm just thinking because it was yesterday and it feels like 10 years ago. But I had a great time doing commentary. Hopefully that'll be on YouTube soon. FEW is the acronym, Future Evolution Wrestling. But for my mind is having these, you know, I'm okay. What else is going on in AEW? I don't know, just stuff. People wrestling in matches. Miro, I guess, now, I mean, this is kind of what I thought was going to happen with Miro, and I hate wrestling fans who do that. Well, I knew this was going to happen, but when Miro came in and he had all these fucking goofy things with Kip Sabian and Penelope Ford, the marriage and the best man, and wearing the stupid Disney shirt, we all thought, like, oh, they've castrated this guy, he's a fool. But my thought at the time was, maybe they start him off this way to have somewhere for him to go. You know what I mean? If you just start him off as a monster, then he's going to burn out and people will be sick of him. But instead, you get the fans hungry for this guy to break free of his comedic shackles, and then you see what happens, and that's what's happening. And he beat the wrestler, the Dark Uno, or then there was a women's match, Penelope Ford and the Varsity Blondes girl, Julia Hall. Penelope wins, and then Miro comes out, and I guess, was he kind of hitting on Penelope? Is that going to go somewhere? Was he basically saying, I can satisfy you more than Kip Sabian? And then are we going to drag in Lana to this madness? I don't know. Penelope Ford looking quite luscious. I don't know if she's really married to Kip Sabian or if that's a bullshit storyline. I don't know. But she definitely has that sexy heel thing going. You can't take it away. I don't know. It was nice to see Riho back recently in AEW. I don't know if she'll be back anymore. The Young Bucks, Omega. The Omega Jungle Boy thing, does it do much for me? Not particularly. I mean, I think what could really make that match work on June 26th, have it go at Broadway. Make it a 60-minute draw. I mean, Omega, if nothing else, has proven he can go 60 minutes. Let's see if young Jungle Boy, Jungle Jack can do it. I think that might be the best way. I mean, don't have Omega just beat him in 20 minutes. Have a 60-minute Broadway. See what happens. I guess there was something with that Marco Stunt winning the BT title. I can't watch that show. I mean, I could. I just don't. So I don't care. I mean, that's about as valid as the 24/7 title, which I guess is the point. But I mean, here's the thing. Ready, guys and women? You have to monitor your intake of this wrestling. I watch plenty of wrestling as it is. I don't need to watch every fucking episode of BTE. I don't need to watch every episode of Dark or Dark Elevation. I watch plenty. You know what I mean? That's one thing I wish I could tell the young wrestling fans, whether you're watching AEW, WWE, whatever you're watching, you don't have to consume every fucking match that they have for you. You know what I mean? If it's too much. Too much of the same type of thing. I mean, spice it up a little bit. Watch your Starrcade 83. Watch your Mid-South Wrestling. Okay? Anyway, is there anything I'm forgetting? I don't know. But I'm trying to give a nice, honest review of current AEW. What are we headed to? I guess Jungle Boy and Omega. And I guess more of the Pinnacle and the Inner Circle. And I guess I just make a comment that there's so many of these groups. You know, it really, I mean, but there's always been groups. I mean, in World Class Championship Wrestling, you had Akbar's Army, you had the Freebirds, you had the Von Erich group. Now it just seems like in AEW, everyone's a group. And one fellow fan said this to me. He said, I don't mind all the groups because it's like if you were in prison, you'd be in a group. So I guess you're comparing to the wrestling company to being in prison. Okay, that's it. Mike Messier. Subscribe to Mike Messier YouTube channel. House Always Wins clips, more AEW clips, wonderful clips on my channel.